Hi, everyone. It's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about how sometimes I hate voiceover. Hate. Hate. I hate what it does to me as a game designer. It reaches deep into my game design soul and just punches it. And nobody acknowledges it. And everybody's like, VO is great and wonderful. Now, let me just say, before I continue, there are times where I think voiceover elevates games. Trust me, I wrote the intro to Fallout that everybody likes, the one about war never changing and all that. Did I think what I wrote was fantastic, a perfect diamond of writing? No. But Ron Perlman took that and he elevated it to something people still talk about today. 27 years later, it was used in the TV show. It's been in a lot of the games already. That's something. I think I tapped into something in my writing that Ron Perlman elevated way beyond anything I could have done without VO. But, and here comes a big but, VO causes all kinds of problems. And as a game designer, programmer, and producer, it has just wrecked me in all three of those spheres over and over and over. And I want to walk down what the problems are. The first one isn't as big a deal anymore, but all the others still are. And I hope that people who think VO is great and they're mad about AI and doing VO and all that, literally listen to what I'm saying here and try to understand this alternate view. In fact, I'm wondering if I should do a video about. I try to understand everyone's point of view on things. I think it's weird when people say, this is dumb or you're wrong. And they don't even put zero effort in understanding why the other person is saying this. So let me walk down all the problems VO has caused me over the years. First of all, voice over takes up disk space. Now, this was a problem back when you were floppies. And it's the main reason we probably could have had VO earlier than it was because we just couldn't fit it on the floppy. Once we got CDs and we suddenly went from 1.4 meg on a floppy to 700 meg on a CD, suddenly it's like, okay, let's do voiceover. And that was great, sort of. But there are still other problems. And also, next time you complain about a big download, most of that's due to the really high resolution graphics because everyone wants 4K now on their big, screen. But some of it is VO. It's taking up extra space. The other problem VO causes is it takes a long time to process and put VO into the game. You have to hire a voice actor. They have to read the lines. They have to be recorded in a professional studio. They have to be sent to someone who will chop up those lines into individual lines that can be tagged in a way that the game can then find them in some kind of sound database and insert them into the game. If you want lip syncing, that has to be done. In a lot of cases, it can be automated now, but that software you have to buy or you have a person to do it. That's somebody you have to pay for. Often it's done automatically and then a person comes in and cleans it up. And so you're paying both. So money. VO means more money spent on the game. Now, this is especially true if you want everyone in the game to have VO. Because I've done games where important people have VO and other people don't. And that was primarily done because of money. Remember I said most of the reason for things is money? Money. But the other problem VO causes that everybody in the game industry knows about, and a lot of people outside the game industry don't, is voice over locks your dialogue down earlier in the process than non-VO text. It used to be the case where if you discovered a bug in the game and the fix for it was to change what someone said, you could literally do that up until the day before you went gold and shipped your discs off to be mastered or stuck it up on Steam to be downloaded. You can't do that with VO because if you change a line that's voiceovered, you need to get that actor back in the studio to record the new line. So it's really a problem. This is why, by the way, in Fallout, there was a character who told you something, and then when that dialogue ended, and it was a VO'd character, a non-VO'd character ran over and said, oh no, we just got new evidence that this group has changed its location, so you need to go south instead of north, or whatever they said. That's why. We could literally not bring that voiceover back into the studio. We didn't have the money or the time. The biggest thing that gets me is, if you've watched this channel, that I love reactivity in my games. I can't have very much reactive dialogue if it's voiceovered, because what I want to do for reactivity is either either prohibited or prohibitively expensive if you use VO. Let me go into detail. If you watched my video, and I'll link it below, on Arcanum's generated dialogue, you know that there was a bunch of things we did to create reactivity in that game. We had generated dialogue, which I called opcodes, that would lead to whole banks of phrases like greetings and goodbyes and do you want to barter and do you want to purchase a spell from me, or do you want healing, which sped up writing dialogue tremendously. But it meant all of those banks, that those generated dialogue, all those banks of lines, had to be indexed. And if they were applied to a character that was VO'd, every voice actor you hire has to say every line in every bank, which there were a lot of banks because we wanted a lot of reactivity. Money and time. There were also some things that were constructed sentences. So I'm trying to think of some of the ones we used, but when we put you would grab from different banks and put them together. There's no good way to do that with VO, because if what you're doing is you're inserting the character's name in there, you can't do that. You've seen games where they try to do it by pre-recording a bunch of names so they can insert the player's name in there, but then you pick a name they don't have and it just doesn't know what to do, or it inserts you or the chosen one or whatever generic phrase you have for the player. But constructed sentences can't be done if you VO. You also can't have a lot of emotion-based lines. And what I mean by that is, I was always hoping that in my games I could have reactivity based on states of the player, or of the NPC. So the NPC, depending on their state, would say the same line differently. For example, reaction level. If there's an NPC who hates you, is very angry at you, their barter line might be, do you see anything you like? As opposed to the neutral, do you see anything you like? Versus the happy to see you, do you see anything you like? Same line, said wildly different ways because the basis for it is different. The emotional basis for it is different. Oh my God, you would have to, one line of text would become 3 lines of VO, and you'd have to have them all recorded. But there's also ones just that about other states. What about the health state? If you have a really wounded NPC, you might want them to say something like, oh, it's good to see you again, as opposed to, oh, it's good to see you again. Now, keep in mind, that factors in, that is a multiplicative with the reaction level. If they hate you and they're wounded, it's like, ugh, it's good to see you again. Versus they're happy to see you but wounded. Oh, it's really good to see you again. It's just a weird thing where you can't do all that. It's basically, it gets prohibitive because that's multiplicative. If you have 4 different reaction emotion levels and 3 different health levels, that's a dozen different ways of doing VO for the same text line. Now, there are games where the player got VO as well. And what they usually do there is either all the VO and all the dialogue is spoken with one voiceover actor. So you're just locked. And you've all played games like that where you get to make your appearance, but you sound exactly the same no matter what your player character's like. Or there's a limited VO set you can pick from, but it's only used for things like being hit or a greeting or whatever, like, hey, or they get hit and like, ugh. They have voice actors do, maybe 20, 30 of these reactive things, and that's what's used. But when you go into dialogue, the player is still unvoiced. Okay, that's what I don't like about VO. But really, that's what I don't like about human VO. There's another option now, and it's becoming a better and better option, AI VO. It can fix all the problems I mentioned. You can generate it on the fly, so you don't have to store it. It can have different emotion levels. It can have different health levels. You can use it for generated dialogue. You can use it for constructed sentences. You can use it for player names. But, ... 2 problems with it. One, it doesn't sound as good. And I'll admit it. Humans VO actors are way better than AI VO actors. And I don't know how long that's going to last. But you put it in, you can tell. You can just tell. Especially, I've listened to audiobooks a lot. And there are some audiobooks I'm listening to going, this is the worst AI voice I've ever heard. They pronounce words wrong. They put the wrong intonation into sentences. It's just bleh. But also, as a lot of you will say, hey, it puts humans out of work. That VO, if you choose a AI VO, it's going to put a human out of work. I don't know how to address this other than to say we have faster compilers now, faster faster and better 3D art programs, which mean one programmer and one artist could do the work of, in the past, what was done by 3 or 4. So that's improved. I'm not even talking AI there. I'm just talking about better, easier to use, faster tools. I put AI in that category, but I understand it puts people out of work. But let me tell you this. My preference is, and always has been, not to have VO in my game. Why? For all the reasons I just mentioned. So don't be surprised when you hear me say, I prefer not to have VO in my games. It puts too much of a damper on some of my design ideas, especially reactivity. But, because everything I said in this video has got a but a lot of players like VO in their games. The same players who don't want to read a wall of text will listen to a VO that's 30 seconds long. Also, many players now expect it and won't buy games that aren't voiced. They're like, why is this game so silent? They just don't like it. But also, bear in mind, not having any VO still puts those human VO actors out of work. What's the solution? I don't know. But what I just wanted to throw out there is what I started this whole video with is sometimes I hate VO. And that's why.